Hey, welcome into the Old Gap Box Podcast. First time our pods come from Los Angeles. And the first time we've had Mark Zucchino on the show. Wow, what a combination. L.A.
We got a lot of
and
firsts.
the Z-Man.
We got a lot of firsts, Dougie.
This guy's from Canada, so, I mean, you know, how's the weather?
Well, you know what? Winter in Toronto's been pretty mild. And coming down here, working the West Coast swing, you know, I was at Pebble, and the weather has not been California-like at all. But we got better weather this week. It's going to be good. You and I have worked this event together many times over the years. It's one of our favorite venues in the world for, I mean, we can do an hour on why we love Riviera and the history and whatnot. But I guess the shorter answer is better weather this week, and glad to be here doing this with you. So,
all right, the Canadian gives the long answer about the weather. I like it. Now let's talk about the Big Cat is back.
Yeah.
And behind us is the great clubhouse, the first tee. That's the par 5. And as we record this, he's out in his Pro-Am, and the crowds are enormous. I mean, the guy's back, right?
It's Elvis, right?
Yeah,
it's the return of Elvis,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Isn't it so funny when you think about Tiger and just the most iconic athletes in the history of sports? You know, Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, etc. They just tend to do things in a storybook way. This is where it all started when he was 16 years old at this tee shop behind us here. And now we come back full circle all around, and it's his return to the PGA Tour in 2024. And he told us last year, Doug, I'm going to try to play once a month. And we all went, okay, so what's once a month? And we all went, hold on, LA players are doing the math, and here he is at Riviera.
You know, you mentioned 1992, teenager, misses the cut, 82 victories, and he's never won here. I mean, he grew up not too far from here. Amazing that he couldn't win here. And this course seemingly sets up perfectly for when he was in his heyday.
Well, okay, has there ever been a better iron player in the history of the game?
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay, and this venue, that's what it speaks to. It's one of the greatest mysteries of his career, really. Now, it's not that he hasn't played well here. He had chances, right? He came close a few times.
Quite a few.
Wouldn't it be special if he did something interesting this week in a short field, in a small field, and kind of got himself in the mix on Sunday? And I'll ask you a question. The harder Riv plays, the more difficult it plays. Does that play into Tiger's hands a bit? Like, do you like Tiger's chances in a tournament where 10 under par or 11 under par might win versus, you know, something we see typically maybe in the desert earlier in the West Coast swing?
Not so fast, my friend. And you've obviously been drinking the Sunday red Kool-Aid.
Yes.
Now, let's be perfectly honest, and this is my opinion. And listen, you and I talked about it last night. I just don't see a 48-year-old guy who hasn't played competitively since the Masters. He played the Hero World Challenge, I get it. I don't see him coming out here contending, no. Making the cut, top 50 in ties, yeah, I think he could do that. But I think that's all we can hope for a guy.
I just have counted him out so often over the years and have had to, you know, take it back and eat crow and gladly eaten crow.
Sure.
So I'm never going to continue to be surprised by this man, but I will agree with you this week. If he looks like he's walking good, looks like he belongs, puts 4 rounds of golf together, and if you and I on Monday said, you know, if we had to play a 5th round, he could play it, I think that's a successful week to get out of the gates in 24. What's a successful week you think in your mind for Tiger?
Making the cut, playing all 4 days.
Okay.
That would be, and that's, you know, the odds are such, and I do think, that's my thing. I do think Tiger will make the cut and play into the weekend.
I do as well.
If that's one of your picks.
I do as well.
All right, so we got that down. Did you get a free cashmere hoodie, by the way?
I did not. I was at the Sunday Red launch on Monday. We did get some nice swag. One of them, though, was not the cashmere hoodie. I mean, that's a big ass for some swag, right? So,
well, I mean, if anybody could do it, you could. But anyway,
you know, one of the bets this week I saw online was does he start with the opening tee shot, which will be 9 a.m. local, in a cashmere hoodie on Thursday? And I'm like, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, the answer is yes, especially with a new logo. And I'll be inside the ropes with him for PGA Tour Radio, so excited about that. All right, let's talk about winners. Okay. Scotty Scheffler, again, the favorite coming in. You and I were talking last night. Should he always be the favorite? And my answer was yes, an emphatic yes. Nobody's better with an iron than Scotty Scheffler.
You guys are an emphatic yes. I'm not as excited. I'm a huge Scotty Scheffler fan, but I'm one of those people that have been a little frustrated over the last 8 months that we haven't really seen a significant change in putting. I know there was improvement in the desert, but playing golf in the desert's like playing golf in the dome. Those greens are perfect. These greens, not so much. I'd like to see a bigger change in maybe a grip, maybe a mallet head, just something to spark some enthusiasm on the greens with Scotty Scheffler. He's not one of my picks this week. I'm going more local on my favorites this week. I love Colin Morikawa this week. I love great iron players around this golf course. I don't think there's a better one. I'm going hardcore on the iron players. I think Colin Morikawa and I think Justin Thomas is due. I follow Justin a lot at Pebble Beach. He's flighting the golf ball again. He's hitting the off-speed pitches, taking the spin off the ball. When his iron game's working, watch out. So I'm all over Morikawa and I'm all over Justin Thomas.
Well, Justin Thomas is knocking on the door, and I thought it was interesting last week at the WM Phoenix Open where he pulls out the old putter, 8-year-old putter, uses it for one day, and then goes back to what he's been working with. It's crazy how these guys experiment.
I mean, and that's the thing. I'm glad we're talking about Justin Thomas's putting again, though, aren't you?
Yes.
Because, I mean, that means his ball striking's back. And last season, we didn't really have the luxury of just talking about his putting. We were worried about, like, where was his iron game going? I heard some great dialogue from Justin himself over the last couple of weeks talking about swing changes. And the swing changes were really to get back to where he was, more of a single plane swinger. And he noticed that somewhere along the way, he was bringing the club a little bit more upright and then kind of laying it off into a two-plane motion on the way down. And it was just over the long term, it was too much timing. It wasn't a path for success for him. And I think now that we're back to the, the major championship swing or the Justin Thomas #1 in the world swing, I'm glad we're talking about his putting again.
Well, yeah, and again, he's on the verge. A motivated guy after last year not winning, not making the playoffs, so he's on the verge. A couple of things. Tiger started the week 175 to 1. He was down as of this recording to 125 to 1. Still the largest odds ever for Tiger. I don't think he's going to win. But if you're looking for a long shot, I'm going to give you my long shot, my winner.
All right.
Adam Schenk is 125 to 1.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the list, this is a signature event.
Right.
I mean, you go down to 125 to 1, you're like, okay, I don't think these guys can beat the top guys. But Adam Schenk is on the verge. One of these days he's going to win.
He's going to break through.
And he's a pretty good iron player. So 125 to 1, you got to sprinkle something on that, right?
And look at the numbers this year.
Yeah.
Just go through the schedule this year at the players that have grabbed W's all the way back to the signature event at the Century, right?
Yes.
None of the big names, none of the favorites have grabbed the spotlight and brought it home. Nick Dunlap at the American Express.
Roll Tide.
There you go. I knew that was coming. So, I mean, you're probably not wrong. You're probably onto something here. We're all hammering the big names. Obviously, golf's like any other sport. The stars drive the sport, but these guys are so good. I would not be surprised if somebody in that 75 to 1 to 125 to 1 window walked out with the Genesis Invitational.
Well, I'm going to go a little more as my pick to click, though, and he's not from LA, but he's from San Diego. Xander Schauffele.
Okay. Took
last week off. He's made 38 consecutive cuts.
Comfortable on broccoli. You can putt the broccoli.
And he's played well here. He has like 4 top 10 finishes here, 3 top 10s to begin the season. I think, and he didn't win last year. I don't know how you could go a whole year as good as he is, but I think Xander probably beats back a good field this week.
I think you and I have a little side action.
All right.
Xander versus Colin. We'll go 2 California kids one-on-one for maybe a favorite milkshake or something.
In-N-Out.
In-N-Out burger.
We were there the other day.
That's the bet.
We don't have time to go into that. I got in trouble through the drive-thru. Another story, another time. Thanks for joining us on the Old Gab Box Podcast. We're right down here, and they're hitting drives over our heads.